Welcome back to Python and Wine, the only show where we break down coding concepts and drink a glass of wine. We're diving into interactive mode, the rawest form of Python. No files, no pressure, just you, your keyboard, and a glass of wine. All right, let's get into it. First thing first, I'm going to go ahead and open up Terminal. In my case, I prefer to use PowerShell, but use whatever you like. I'm also a huge fan of Git Bash. Alright, so first thing first, we're going to go ahead and type Python. When you type Python with no arguments and hit enter, you go into interactive mode. This is like you're directly talking with the Python interpreter. Okay, to start off, we're going to introduce you to 5 very basic data types. We're going to introduce you to the integers, floats, character strings, lists, and dictionary. So let's get right into it. All right, so first we're going to get into integers. So integers are used from digits 0 to 9. It's always assumed to be positive. So if I go here and type 9, I'm going to get positive 9. I can always change to a negative by adding a negative sign. So negative 9, hit enter, and I get negative 9. So you can do math. You can do standard math on integers. So if you go 7 minus 7, you get 0. You go 6 plus 7, you get 13. You do longer arithmetic expressions. Python obeys standard operating orders when it comes to mathematics. So you can do something like 3 times 1 plus 4. The way this will be evaluated is anything within the parentheses will go first. So you'll get 5 and you'll multiply it by 3, which will give us 15. You can also divide 4 divided by 2. We'll get into this soon, but whenever you have a decimal point, it's no longer an integer, it becomes a float. Whenever you use division in Python, it automatically converts to a float. All right, so we're going to go ahead and clear. So now let's get into floats. Floats have a integer part and a decimal part, and they're separated by a period. 1.2. Now you have a float. You can't use commas or any other symbols. You have to separate it by periods. So let's go ahead and do something like 1.2 plus 5 minus 6. Okay, got the space. I'm glad that happened. We're going to get into this much later, but in Python is an indent-based language, so spaces before matter. So I'm going to go ahead and hit backspace and enter, and we get 0.2. So all the operations with integers works with floats as well. Later on, we'll get into more of the different arithmetic operations. So next, we're going to get into character strings. Hello world. As you can see, we get an error. For strings to be valid, it needs to be within quotes, either single or double. You can also use operators on strings. Here, we just added hello and world together. If you want the space, there's a couple ways you can do that. The first way would be as you can see inside the quotes, space matters. You can also add the space in separately. As you can also see, I'm using double quotes and single quotes interchangeably. For this situation, it doesn't matter. But sometimes it does matter. For example, if you want to do something like this throws an error. In this case, I'm want to actually use a single quote, but one way to do this is to wrap everything in double quotes instead of single quotes. Now it's valid. Another way to do this is to escape out the single quote. We're going to go into greater detail later on. That backslash changed the behavior of that comma to be treated as literally. So now we're going to talk about lists. Lists are basically arrays. You can put any kind of object in them that you want. They're separated by commas. Let's add some strings in here and mix in some floats as well. Python handles this with no problem. So in addition, you can do computation inside the list elements. No problem. Oh yeah, I forgot. Let's take a sip. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and clear. The final data type today we're going to talk about is dictionaries. I like to call it JSON, but you'll see why. So dictionaries are a bunch of key value pairs. They're within inside curly brackets. There you go. We're going to go over variables in detail at a later time, but for now, I'm going to create a variable just to show you some things you can do with dictionaries. We're going to go ahead and hit enter to save the dictionary. One of the cool things about dictionaries is they can be accessed via their key. If you insert the key in brackets after the variable name, you will get the corresponding. All right, let's go ahead and clear and drink a glass of wine. All right, up until now, we were just typing objects of different data types into the interpreter. But this isn't very useful. Usually you want to store it into a variable. In Python, we use the equal sign to assign a literal to a name. I like to call these variables. Once the variable is saved into memory, we can access it just by typing the variable name. We can then do operations on the variable itself. See, no problem. The cool thing in the interpreter, if you type the up, the last thing will come back. We can also assign variables into other variables. This isn't really all that useful outside of the interpreter, but the underscore has a special meaning inside the interpreter. The underscore just returns the last value. Since So now you tasted a little bit of the Python interpreter. You got to play around with a couple of data types. And you got to name some things. For most of you, I understand this is very basic, but we will progress fast. I'm just trying to start at the very beginning to give people with no coding experience the opportunity to jump in. But pretty soon we'll be doing things like function, class, maybe messing around with some frameworks like Django. Yeah, it'll be a good time. So like, subscribe, and drink responsibly.